As you are all aware, last night there was a large gathering of people on Danzig Street in the Morningside and Lawrence area of Scarborough. At approximately 22:40 hours, there was an altercation that took place. We believe, from information that we have received to date, that this altercation involved two individuals, and as a result, there was an exchange of gunfire. I am able to provide you with some update on the number and condition of victims from this offense. The gunfire resulted in gunshot wounds to 23 individuals. Two of those individuals have succumbed to their injuries and were pronounced deceased at the scene. The names of the two individuals who were killed in this event have not yet been released. The next of kin for these two young people have been notified that the Homicide Squad is conducting formal identification, and when that information that has been concluded, the Homicide Squad will be updating the public with the names of the deceased. I can tell you that one of the deceased is a 14-year-old female, and the other is a 23-year-old male. In addition to the two individuals who were murdered in this event, there were additionally 21 individuals who received gunshot injuries. I am advised that they ranged in age from a 22-month-old infant who received a grazing injury and is expected to fully recover from that injury to a 33-year-old. There are a wide range of injuries for the 21 individuals who were injured and were treated in hospital. I am advised that one of the males is still in surgery and is listed in critical condition. The others, the information that we currently have, is that they are all expected to recover. Several of them received relatively minor injuries, have been treated and released from hospital. This morning, I met with the unit commanders of my Homicide Squad, our Guns and Gangs unit, the Intelligence Services Urban Gang unit, and Divisional Policing. All of these units are fully engaged in a relentless pursuit of the evidence required to apprehend and to prosecute the individuals we believe to be responsible for this offense. We have received some cooperation from witnesses at the scene, but I am here today to make an appeal through you all to the many hundreds of people that were present at this event yesterday who may have some information relevant to this investigation to come forward. We are very concerned not only with the quick resolution and solving of this crime, but the potential for retaliatory violence, which we often see in this type of event, which occurs when individuals seek vengeance for the violence that took place last night. In order to ensure that we very quickly bring this matter to a resolution, we are asking for the public's help. We are asking for those individuals who care not only for the safety of themselves, but for their communities, for the safety of their neighborhoods, and for the safety of innocents. If they have information that would assist the police in this investigation, we need them to come forward, and we need them to provide that information to us as quickly as possible. In addition to the quick resolution of this crime, we will be deploying significant additional uniform resources into the community affected and into any other area where we believe retaliatory violence may take place. We are doing that because we want to prevent that violence, and we are also doing that to provide reassurance to the community affected by last night's crime and to protect any other area which might be made fearful by the violence that took place. The crime that occurred in Scarborough yesterday was unprecedented for the city of Toronto. It is a crime that is shocking to all of our citizens, and it is a crime that demands the relentless pursuit of the individuals responsible for this violence. We have seen other incidents in the city of Toronto where individuals have chosen to engage in gun violence that has put many innocent people at risk. Last night, 23 innocent individuals were victims of gun violence, and it demands a response from the entire city. And for that reason, I am asking everyone who may have information, if videotape was taken of this event earlier in the evening, please make that available to us either through social media or contacting us directly. And if anyone has any information relative to this investigation, I would urge them to contact the Homicide Squad at 416-808-7400. I have also today been in contact with the Premier of Ontario, Premier McGuinty, and the Mayor of Toronto, Mayor Rob Ford. We are all resolute in our determination, first of all, to bring the perpetrators of this violence to justice, and also to do everything possible to ensure that we are able to provide a safe environment in all of our communities throughout the city of Toronto. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Can you tell us how many shooters there were? Can you tell us the status of the gentleman who's being questioned by police? And thirdly, can you say if this was gang related?
Certainly. The preliminary information that I have at this point in time, Tim, and there is still a great deal of work to be done in this investigation, is that there were 2 individuals shooting firearms at this event. There is strong indication that there may have been a gang involvement in individuals who are associated to gangs. That is being actively pursued and investigated as an investigative avenue by both the Guns and Gangs Unit and the Homicide Squad. I am unable to provide you with an update on the evidence gathered to date as it pertains to any individual. That work is ongoing, and when we have more information that can be released, the Homicide Squad will be providing that update. I anticipate later today the Homicide Squad may have some information for you, but they've got a lot of work to do. As you can imagine, there are many people to be interviewed. As you can also imagine, there's a great deal of information coming in very rapidly in this investigation. And the Homicide Squad, along with our people at Guns and Gangs, Intelligence, and Divisional Policing, are working to put the pieces together. We need additional information to get this thing nailed down, but we believe that we have good investigative leads and that we are making real progress in this investigation. One at a time, please.
You said there were 23 innocent individuals harmed in this. Does that mean that neither of the shooters, however many there were injured in this incident?
We know that very many of these people were innocent victims. There are aspects of our investigation that will determine the involvement of any individual in this. But there were 23 people injured, and 2 of them, unfortunately, have lost their lives. This is the worst incidents of gun violence that we have experienced in the city, and we are still working through the actual involvement of anyone who might have been involved in perpetuating that violence.
This relates to the summer of the gun years back. Are you afraid that this is shaping up to be much worse? I mean, what are your statistics telling you? You call this one of the worst incidents you've seen. Give us a sense if you can put this in context.
But I think there'll be ample time to reflect on the context of this event. But right now we are dealing with a very specific crime, a crime of horrendous violence that occurred last night in which very many people were injured. And I think it is absolutely incumbent that we focus our attention in resolving that matter and bringing those people to justice. There's a great deal of work that has been done and continues to be done throughout the city. But frankly, today is not a day, in my opinion, to reflect on statistics or even to try to provide some context. There's a very serious, significant event that has occurred in our city. I can tell you that in my conversation with both the Premier and the Mayor, and certainly with my own staff, we're looking very hard at what this may mean for all of our neighborhoods and safety in the city of Toronto. But today we're focusing on the crime that took place last night and our pursuit of the individuals responsible for it.
Is the person of interest considered a suspect? The person of interest, are they considered a suspect, or do you not know yet?
They are currently a person of interest. And the Homicide Squad has a great deal of work to do with respect to their investigation, and when they have more information, I will leave it to them to update you and the public on the progress of their investigation. We did identify a person of interest last night, and they are just that.
Chief been adamant from the shootings that occurred earlier this summer, in the late spring, that these were all isolated episodes. Have you changed your view now? Is there some correlation between what's been going on? Or are we looking at some kind of, you mentioned gang activity likely involved last night. Are we looking at some kind of gang war on the street?
I would not characterize the violence that took place necessarily in that way. We are looking at the involvement of gangs in this matter and whatever role they may or may not have played in this matter. Certainly the type of violence that we saw, that very brazen violence that demonstrates a depraved indifference to the lives and safety of others, that is not uncharacteristic of people who are involved in gangs and the way in which they use violence. It's one of the reasons I would like the people of that neighborhood and any other neighborhood who might have information about the individuals involved in this, if they care about their neighborhood, if they care about their friends and their family and their loved ones. We saw last night innocent people put at risk, and we want to do everything we can as a police service, but also as a city, to protect those innocent people. And I think it does demand that if people have any information that they believe may be of assistance in this investigation, or which can help us prevent any further retaliatory violence that may arise from this event, I'm very hopeful that they will come forward out of concern for their safety and out of concern for their own community.
Sorry, if I can just, there's been a lot of chatter already out there on social media about retribution. If we bring in the G word, the gangs, how serious, how much are you concerned about what happens next?
I'm very concerned about what's happened next. I will be deploying, we've already developed plans to deploy significant additional uniform resources into that neighborhood, and there are other neighborhoods which we believe could potentially be impacted by what transpired last night. We're also asking for the public's help, but we know that as quick a resolution of this particular crime is important, and we need the public's help for that, but we'll also be a very strong presence with uniform officers, guns and gangs officers, our TAVIS rapid response teams. We'll be putting police officers in that neighborhood today and over the next several weeks to ensure that not only can we provide a safe environment for the citizens there, but to help encourage them to come out more closely with us, because we're going to need their help to resolve this matter.
Are you getting any cooperation from the organizers of the event?
We are getting cooperations from people attended, as you can imagine. I've already indicated to you there are a number of people who suffered injuries. They will be interviewed today as well. But we know that there were many people at this event who fled. Actually, I think it's understandable. They were afraid and they fled the area. We need them now this morning to come back and share what they observed and what they witnessed at that event with us. And as I said, it's very possible many times on social occasions people will take video and photographs at these occasions. We would like that evidence, because we'll be examining that and any other video evidence that may be available. But we need people to share with us what they observed, what they saw, and what they know.
What the measures you have at your disposal and the police force and the legislative laws you have, is there anything that you can do to attack the issue of these shootouts that are happening in public? It's not gangs in an alleyway, it's in an even center. It was Jane Creek a few years back and now at a barbecue. What weapons do you have at your disposal to deal with this kind of problem?
Well, first of all, in response to the gang violence that the city was experiencing 7 and 8 years ago, we put in place a number of very significant resources, and we did that with the help of the provincial government and the City of Toronto. We've formed an integrated guns and gangs unit that over the past several years has demonstrated a very, very real effectiveness in identifying and attacking and dismantling the activities of some of the most violent gangs in the city. We also have, through the TAVIS deployment, the ability to put a lot of uniform officers into a neighborhood quickly, and every summer we do a neighborhood TAVIS deployment. Now, unfortunately, this summer, that deployment of additional police officers and police resources has been placed in other neighborhoods which were identified as a priority. But we'll be moving some of our resources this morning to ensure that we can provide a safe environment for the Torontonians who live in the area of Morningside and Lawrence that experienced this violence last night, and in some other neighborhoods, because in our preliminary investigation, we know that there are some individuals who may have been involved in this event who live in other parts of the city, and we will want to ensure that there is no retaliatory violence taking place in those neighborhoods as well. Hang on.
What other parts of the city?
What's that?
What other parts of the city?
There are a number of places, and we'll be deploying officers primarily in the Scarborough area. But we also have very significant deployments going on in the northwest part of the city in both Rexdale and the Jane Finch neighborhoods. But as it pertains to this investigation, other places in Scarborough are our primary focus.
Are there any police officers?
I believe that Toronto is a very safe and livable city, but last night, Danzig was not a safe place. And there was an event in which very many people were put at tremendous risk, and many were injured and quite seriously injured. 2 young people lost their lives. And in the context of that, I think we have to acknowledge, and I certainly do acknowledge, that last night on Danzig, that was a very dangerous place for innocent people going about their daily lives.
Do you have any idea how many bullets were fired? If 23 people were hit maybe multiple times, I mean, what number of
we have a fairly good idea of how many rounds were fired because of evidence that was left at the scene. I can tell you it appears that some individuals might have been struck, more than one individual struck by a single bullet.
Chief, were there any police officers at the barbecue or monitoring it? Was there any reason for you guys to believe that something might happen there?
We'd had a couple of calls with respect to noise complaints, and there was the attendance of some uniformed police earlier in the day. And there were some other investigations that were going on. The police were able to respond very, very quickly. We were very quickly in the area when the violence took place.
You know what time they were called about the noise complaints?
I don't have that information in front of me, but it was prior to this event that there was some noise complaints that were received and that the uniformed officers attended. I understand.
The 2 victims that died, does it appear that they were shot?
I think it's very, very clear that they were both completely innocent and caught in the crossfire of this thing. It does not appear that they were targeted.
Is there any indication as to whether there was one or both of the shooters sought each other out, or if there was something that sparked the shooting in the second?
And again, unfortunately, you're getting into what is now a very preliminary part of our investigation. That is being examined very carefully, and will form an important part of this investigation. And I frankly will leave that to the Homicide Squad to update the progress of their investigation. They also, when this is successfully concluded, are going to have to take individuals through the courts, and we have to ensure that we protect that process as well.
Is this event before? Is this the first time?
Well, this is the first time that we're aware that this event actually took place. We didn't have. My understanding is we didn't have prior knowledge of it taking place. It was fairly recently organized.
When you say that there was something
I'm sorry.
What happened here of police division? Can you just talk about the mass response?
Frankly, when the information came over about the shooting, we had the police officers from 43 Division responded, but an assist went across because very quickly it became apparent we had quite a number of people injured and a very large scene that needed to be contained, and very many people were fleeing the area. And so we had police officers respond from various parts of the city, including even in 14 Division down in the Dundas Dovercourt area responded. We also, I would like to mention that EMS attended in large numbers. In fact, 16 people were transported from the scene by ambulance by our EMS, but we also received very quick response and assistance from the Durham Regional EMS and from York Regional EMS. So we had people coming from other parts to provide assistance as well. But the Toronto EMS was able to handle the volume of work that was required.
Do you see this as a trend where these shootings are becoming more brazen? Is this a trend? People are still talking about these.
Again, I think there'll be time to reflect on trends and place this in context. Right now, we're looking very specifically at this event. We want the assistance of the public and witnesses to come forward in order to help us quickly identify the people responsible for the violence that took place last night. And I am sincerely concerned about the potential for retaliation and violence among some of the individuals associated to this event and to this violence. And so we want to move very quickly to deal with that. I think there will be time in the future to reflect on what this means to the City of Toronto, and we'll have an opportunity to do that. But today, we're focusing on identifying, apprehending those individuals responsible for this. They have to be held to account, and quite frankly, people who would engage in such violence represent such a significant danger to the lives and safety of all of us that we need to be protected from them. And the quicker we can get them into custody, the safer the city will be.
Were these 2 individuals shooting at each other, or did they appear to be working together, shooting at somebody else?
Again, I don't believe I think they were targeting at each other, but I'm going to leave that to the Homicide Squad to update. When they have more, I'll leave it to the Homicide Squad to update. Hang on a second. This lady started about 3 times. Yes, ma'am.
We've had a number of shootings in public, and would you say that gun violence is changing now that a lot of innocent people are caught in the crossfire?
We've had public violence. It is an unfortunate fact of some of the individuals involved in this type of violence, carrying firearms and involved in gang activities, that they seem quite willing to engage in violence in very public settings and putting a lot of innocent people at risk. We've seen a number of incidents like this, and we've already referenced the shooting in Boxing Day of 2005, when Jane Kriba was killed and several other people were injured. This is somewhat characteristic, and it's one of the reasons we're looking at potential of gang involvement in this case, because this is, quite frankly, the types of behaviors that they engage in, and I think there's something for people to reflect on, that if you associate with such individuals, and if you are present with such individuals, then you put yourself somewhat at risk, because their behavior it can be highly dangerous.
Are you going to review your guns and gangs policy now, since you're looking at potentially even, I know you said you're not reflecting on it yet, but if we are having all these public shootings and they might be gang related, what does that say about the policy?
Specifically, we've had two. But they were very significant events, and I'm certainly not diminishing the importance of either the shooting that took place at the Eaton Center. We had a very quick resolution of that crime, and the individuals responsible, we believe, have been apprehended, and we're moving as quickly as we can on this investigation as well, to ensure that those individuals, whoever they may be, who were responsible for the murder of two innocent people and the injury of very many other people, are brought quickly to justice. And I think the quicker that we can resolve this matter, and with the assistance of the public, the safer we can make all of our communities, because we lessen the likelihood of retaliatory violence.
What kind of weapon were they using, Chief? I mean, if they were spraying bullets, could you tell us? You would know by now.
Yeah, it appears to have been two handguns. And we have calibers, but I'll leave that to the homicide squad. It forms part of their investigation. I've got to come back over here. You've had about.
Have been seized weapons? Any weapons seized?
There was one firearm recovered at the scene.
When people shot, is this a person of interest you're talking about? Is he the one that was...
And again, that now forms part of the homicide squad's investigation. We have identified a person of interest in this case, and the homicide squad is now following up on that. They'll be providing an update when they've made sufficient progress in their investigation to do so. Yes, sir.
The case for the gun registry, are you still for that, or is your position now because of all the shootings?
Well, I have to tell you, I certainly advocated very strongly for the retention of the gun registry and the retention of the information that was available to police officers. I believed it was valuable for public safety. However, the Parliament has made a decision on that, and I think it is important that at least from a police standpoint, that we respect the will of Parliament.
When you say that there were other investigations going on in the area, can you say specifically, was there any investigation going on in relation to the barbecue or people at the barbecue before the shooting happened?
I can't comment on that.
Are the suspects known to police, and have the police been looking for these individuals?
And again, I'm not going to comment on anyone who may or may not be a suspect at this point. I'll leave that to the homicide squad to update you on the conduct of their investigation when they are in a position to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I believe, again, the homicide squad is indicated they're working and have been working relentlessly through the night, gathering evidence and speaking to witnesses. They still need witnesses to come forward, and so I would like to repeat my request that if anyone has information relevant to this investigation, the violence that took place on Danzig last night, to please contact the homicide squad at 416-808-7400. We want to hear from anyone who may have any information that may be of assistance, and thank you very much for your interest and concern.